I have to tell you guys right now how much what you're doing means to someone like me, because a little bit about my background. I was on the U17 Canadian team. We were the first age U17 team to be able to go to a World Cup. That was the first time FIFA introduced the U17 World Cup in New Zealand. And from there, I went to go play collegiately at West Virginia University. And I remember thinking, like, what do I do after here? I mean, there is the women's league in the US, but I'm like, what if I want to go back home? And sometimes there would be some troubles with the women's league. Sometimes it would collapse and it wouldn't feel too stable. And you were constantly thinking of, like, how can I continue to play and do what I love and do what I'm good at, but make sure I'm also secure in the long run, right? And that was a big question mark when I was playing as a female soccer player, female footballer. And there was always that question of, like, if I want to go back home and be with my family, there's nothing to do. Like, Toronto FC came out with the league, and my dad and I are season ticket holders since the first season. But I was like, where's the women's team? I want a women's team. I want to play for TFC women. So what you guys are doing for so many women, because even when I started my TV career at Sportsnet, I'd get so many messages from young female soccer players being like, I wish there was more for us here. And I was like, we've come so far, but there's still such a long way to go. And I've been very protective about that space. So speaking here with you all today, it's very meaningful to me. Like, this is a very big place in my heart. And I think that what you all are doing for not only the women of my generation, but more importantly, the women growing up and the young girls who are now investing their time and soul and passion and commitment into their sport, they're now going to be entering a safer space of, okay, I can make a career out of this. I'm going to be respected within my space. And I think that just speaks volumes. And I could go on and on and on, but Diana, it's a perfect segue into what you're doing with Project 8 and creating this Canadian Women's Pro Soccer League. Where did this idea come from? How long was it in the works? Just tell us everything that you can.
I think we've all known in the landscape, you said it, that the one thing that's been missing in Canadian soccer is the pro game. And I think that's been on the minds of women's soccer players in Canada for, at least a decade, as we watch the rest of the world really build up their professional leagues. And it was always waiting to see what would happen here. I think one catalyst for Lena Moscato. She was working for CPL years and years ago, and she was showing some of the stuff she'd been working on personally and what she'd learned. And just, at that time I'd said, okay, what's the easiest way to build pro soccer in Canada? Well, let's get an NWSL team. We'll do a TFC women, like, box checked. We've done it. And it was Carm who really pointed out first the opportunity that exists in Canada to build a women's pro league, and just the exponentially larger impact that a league has on not just the players, but everyone in the entire ecosystem, women in sports media, women in business, and just, what that would mean for the Canadian landscape. And then for me, the journey really started when I retired. I knew I wanted to stay involved in that somehow. So I started talking to as many people as possible to see, who's working on what's going on, where can I pitch in? I knew I wanted to be on the business side. So I went back to school. Amazing. I got my executive MBA through a partnership through Game Plan, COC, and the Smith School of Business. I did some soccer specific programming as well. So I was basically a full-time student for 18 months. And then through those two things, through the soccer programming, I got a picture of, there's no one way to build a league. That's clear. That came through really clearly. You have to build tailor fit to your market. And in Canada, we're a really unique market. We've got challenges, lack of soccer infrastructure, huge geography. We've got huge strengths here compared to other nations. Our participation rates of girls in soccer, our fan base that's been supporting this national team for over a decade, that's other countries. So that came really clear, the competition format that would work in this country. And then through business school, I think I can remember really clearly Elsbeth Murray, who's now on the board for the league, had a class, Entrepreneurial Essentials. And one of the classes had one part that said, here's 4 things you need in any business. You need a problem to solve. You need the opportunity. Check. You need revenue. And in our ecosystem, we could see what those were. It was ownership, it was ticket sales, it was merchandise, and it was corporate sponsorship. Check. You need the people. And for me, that meant, finding a business partner. And I met him through my executive MBA, Thomas Gilbert, and perfect guy to start this thing with. And then timing. Well, we've got all these boxes. Should we just start working on it? And we did last June, and we made a plan And so far the plan is on track to kick off in 2025.
And from a business perspective, how was it received?
It's been unbelievable. I think two things that I knew the timing was right. I think two things that have even exceeded my expectations: the response from corporate Canada and Canadian companies stepping up and leading the way and being the first ones to put money into this, because there's risk. There's risk in sports, and especially in a league that doesn't exist yet. Like we don't have 8 teams yet. We don't have games yet, but Canadian companies are just like, we're in. And the second thing, you kind of touched on it, was the response from Canadians and the impact and the sense of women and girls and, you know, dads with daughters and men that were raised by a single mother and men that have 4 sisters, what this league means to them. And everyone is saying, oh, it's about time. I can't wait to buy a ticket. I can't wait to buy a jersey. The response has been really, really impactful. And the amount of young women that have come up to me and shared stories kind of like you just did is above and beyond what I expected.